Welcome to a video presenting a sample opening statement in United States v. Anderson. You will first hear from trial counsel and then from the defense. Keep in mind that there are many different ways to present an opening statement. What we will show you here is only one way. Your own opening statement should reflect your own style, language, and personality. What we want you to pay attention to here are a few things. Each attorney uses a theme, that is, a phrase that sums up the case theory, a slogan, or a bumper sticker. Also, notice how each attorney tells a simple, coherent, and chronological story using the facts of the case that each side believes will be admitted during the trial. Finally, note how each attorney strives to stick with the facts of the case while still being forceful and persuasive.
Government, do you have an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Madam President, members of the panel, good morning. My name is Captain Catherine Parnell, and along with my co-counsel, Captain Eduardo Palomo, I represent the United States. This case is about an attack by Sergeant Michael Anderson on Specialist Allison Moreland. His weapon was her trust, and he wielded it well. Specialist Moreland is a 20-year-old specialist in the United States Army. She is assigned to the 4th Combat Aviation Brigade, 4th Infantry Division, Fort Carson, Colorado. She's been there about a year, and in that year, she has been friends with the accused. The accused is a sergeant in her unit and has been at Fort Carson for 2 years. They'd never been romantically involved, but Specialist Moreland had always liked and looked up to the accused as a friend, and he, in turn, had always been nice to her and showed her the ropes in the unit. Over the weekend of 1 to 4 September last year, Specialist Moreland planned to go on a boss campout in the Rocky Mountain National Park. Her friend, Private First Class Samantha Parker, was going too, as was the accused. This was supposed to be a weekend of hiking, swimming, and chatting around campfires. Everyone drove up on Friday night, and once there, they set up the tents, one for the women and one for the men. The next morning, the whole group went on a long hike that took most of the day. Once they got back, everyone cooked dinner and settled around the campfire. They were chatting, and several people, including the accused, were drinking beer. Specialist Moreland was not drinking. At about 21:30, she decided to go to bed. She was tired from the long hike. The accused also decided to go to bed, and he followed her to the tents, which were about 100 feet from the campfire. They said goodnight to each other, and Specialist Moreland went to sleep in her own tent. She slept on top of her own sleeping bag because it was warm out. Just a few minutes later, and she doesn't remember how long, she woke up to the accused on top of her. He was touching her in ways she did not want to be touched, on her breasts and between her legs. She tried to stop him, but she couldn't, because she was frozen in terror. The accused then pulled off her shorts and put his penis inside her vagina. Just then, Private First Class Parker, Specialist Moreland's best friend, stuck her head in the tent and shrieked, "What are you doing? Get off of her!" and pulled the accused off of Specialist Moreland. The accused came out of the tent, zipping his pants back up and winking at the two soldiers. Private First Class Parker asked Specialist Moreland if she was okay, but Specialist Moreland was still in shock and unable to respond. They stayed in the female tent, but decided to leave the retreat early the next morning. At first, Specialist Moreland did not want to go to the police to report the rape. She was embarrassed and confused, but it was her best friend who made the report to the military police. And when CID agents came to talk to Specialist Moreland, she told them what the accused had done to her in the female tent. At the request of investigators, she also went for a physical exam with a nurse specializing in sexual assault. You'll hear about this exam and the physical evidence of the assault that the nurse found, namely vaginal injury consistent with a forcible rape. Members of the panel, the accused didn't need a knife or a gun to commit this attack. All he needed was the trust of a friend. Trust was the weapon he used to attack Specialist Allison Moreland, and he wielded that weapon well. After you've heard all the evidence, I will ask that you do what the evidence and justice demand. I will ask that you hold the accused responsible for this attack and return a verdict of guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Defense, do you have an opening or do you wish to reserve?
We're ready now, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
Madam President, members of the panel, my name is Major Patrick Gordon, and I represent Sergeant Michael Anderson. We are here today because of an interrupted sexual encounter that has been covered up with a lie a lie to protect a relationship, a lie that Specialist Moreland told because she went wild in the wilderness, a lie Specialist Moreland told to protect her relationship with her boyfriend, who was to become her fiancé and is now her husband. Because, you see, there was no sexual assault. What happened in that tent was a conscious and consenting choice between two adults. That choice was not without consequence for Specialist Moreland, though. By having sex with Sergeant Anderson, Specialist Moreland gravely risked her relationship with the man who would become her husband. When Specialist Moreland's sexual encounter with Sergeant Anderson was interrupted by PFC Parker, her discovery was certain. So she had to come up with a lie to explain what happened. After overwhelming encouragement from her friend, PFC Parker, Specialist Moreland decided to claim that she was sexually assaulted. Specialist Moreland was looking forward to this campout. She was looking forward to spending some time with Sergeant Anderson in particular. She had even posted on her Facebook page before the campout that she planned on going wild in the wilderness with some hot boys. Go wild with a couple of hot boys. Apparently this post wasn't joking, because Specialist Moreland did go wild in the wilderness with Sergeant Anderson, until PFC Parker burst into the tent, discovered the encounter, and immediately declared it to be a sexual assault. Bear in mind that on this evening, Specialist Moreland didn't drink a drop of alcohol, didn't take any drugs, and by all indications was fit as a fiddle and in full control of her mind and body, with friends nearby at all times. As you examine the evidence in this case, you are going to see that this entire chain of events was initiated, stoked, and fueled by PFC Parker, who was a deeply hurt, misguided, and overbearing person who pushed Specialist Moreland to claim that she was sexually assaulted. Indeed, the night of the alleged incident, PFC Parker had recently been dumped by her boyfriend and was self-medicating her sorrows by becoming extremely drunk around the campfire. As PFC Parker became more and more drunk, she started angrily ranting and raving, first about her ex-boyfriend and then about men in general. You will hear from the witnesses that she is a vicious hater of men. You will see PFC Parker's own social media posts where she declares that all men are pigs, watch out ladies, and jerks are everywhere. It is in the middle of this drunken stupor on the night of the campout that PFC Parker stumbles upon the tent where Sergeant Anderson and Specialist Moreland were having a sexual encounter. Upon discovering this, PFC Parker can either conclude that her friend, Specialist Moreland, is cheating on her boyfriend, or that she's being sexually assaulted by an evil man. Guess which option she chooses? It is this narrative of events that PFC Parker incessantly presses on Specialist Moreland over the next couple of days, plying Specialist Moreland with massive amounts of alcoholic beverages after the campout. The booze doesn't work though, so PFC Parker takes it up to another level. She calls Specialist Moreland's boyfriend, who later becomes her fiancé and is now her husband, and tells him that Specialist Moreland was sexually assaulted. Specialist Moreland's boyfriend then speaks to her on the phone and tells her to call the MPs. Specialist Moreland, her head a mess from the alcohol, and directly facing her boyfriend, finally agrees to report her sexual encounter in the tent with Sergeant Anderson as a sexual assault. That is what this case is about today. A lie to protect a relationship. That is why, to his great horror and shock, Sergeant Anderson finds himself sitting in that chair today, accused of crimes that could deprive him of his future, his liberty, and any realistic hope of a fruitful life. Those things are now in your hands. Consider the evidence carefully. Apply your wisdom. Remember that Sergeant Anderson is presumed to be innocent, and the government bears the burden of proving its case beyond a reasonable doubt. At the conclusion of the presentation of the evidence and argument, we ask that you end this and find Sergeant Anderson not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Government, call your first witness.